We have heard mostly about the famous four members of the Beatles, but there were times when an informal title of the fifth Beatle was given to people who were somehow related to the Fab Four members or were a part of the band for some brief time. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the two Black Beatles, Billy Preston, and his association with the band. The Beatles got their fame like no other rock band, and we can say that they were not used to sharing their spotlight with other musicians. But Billy Preston was one of the lucky ones to be given credit on a Beatles label. Billy Preston recorded the legendary single Get Back with the Beatles. He was featured in the new Peter Jackson documentary, The Beatles Get Back, during his time with the band. Billy Preston is known for sitting in on historic recording sessions with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Aretha Franklin, and Bob Dylan. Who was Billy Preston, and how exactly was he related to the Beatles? We are going to find out all the answers about the Black Beatle in this video, so make sure you stay till the end. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please take a moment and subscribe below. Thank you. Billy Preston. Billy Preston was an R&B musician who was first introduced to the band in 1962, when he was playing keys for Little Richard. At that time, the Beatles were rising to fame and were looking to get the spotlight outside their home city. The next most important interaction Preston had with the Beatles was in 1969, when the band was going through some internal tensions. Preston was in London filming for BBC television appearances when he decided to say hello to his old friends. He had no idea the band was in search of a keyboardist. In Jackson's documentary, it is shown how warmly the Beatles met with Billy Preston and how they invited him to an impromptu performance of A Taste of Honey. John Lennon then asked Preston to be a part of their album. First, Preston thought he was kidding, but later, he realized it was a serious offer, which he happily accepted. John Lennon was convinced to make Billy a permanent member of the band, but Paul McCartney disagreed because the band was on the verge of splitting, and there was no point in a new addition to the ranks. Previously, the band had stopped touring in 1966, exhausted by years on the road and increasingly manic fans whose screams were so loud that the Fab Four very often couldn't hear their own music. Then another disaster struck the following year, when their manager Brian Epstein, who was responsible for the band's superstardom and for keeping the Four disciplined, died suddenly of an overdose. The Beatles managed themselves while they argued over Epstein's replacement, but in 1969, mounting interpersonal and business tensions threatened to destroy the friendship at the core of the group. With Ringo Starr's brief departure from the band in 1968, it was clear to everyone around the Beatles that their future as friends, let alone as a band, was in jeopardy. But then Billy came to the Fab Four. He became a ray of hope for the band, for returning them to the excitement and enthusiasm of their early days when their friendship had no signs of strain, and when their whole careers were ahead of them. The band took some time to teach Billy the numbers, but the next thing the viewers saw was Preston at the keyboard tapping out the iconic electric organ riff on I've Got a Feeling, making brilliance look easy. That was the time when both Lennon and McCartney felt the band was clicking again in a way they hadn't before. Preston also performed with the Beatles during their 42-minute performance on the rooftop of Apple on the 30th of January, 1969, which was the band's final public performance. Billy was extremely talented, but with his talent, he had a generous smile and obvious joy while playing, which gave the Beatles a liftoff. Preston never officially became the fifth Beatle, as Lennon suggested, but when the band released Get Back and Don't Let Me Down as a single and B-side, it was credited to The Beatles with Billy Preston, which was the only time another artist got credited as a co-performer with the Beatles. Preston also played some of the other hits of the Beatles like Abbey Road, I Want You, and Something, but he was never credited. Billy and the Fab Four members. Billy also worked with George Harrison on several occasions after the band's breakup. Preston was signed to Apple in 1969 and released the album That's the Way God Planned It. George Harrison produced the title track, and it was released as a single. The pair had a strong relationship after the Beatles split. Preston was the first to record My Sweet Lord for his 1970 album Encouraging Words, and he appeared on several subsequent albums by Harrison. He also appeared at the concert for Bangladesh. Billy not only worked with Harrison, but also with Lennon and Ringo Starr. He performed and recorded with the Rolling Stones from 1971 until 1977. The 80s was a troubled time for him because he got involved with different addictions and had to go to jail because of assault and cocaine possession charges. He was sentenced to rehab and 3 months of house arrest. However, he did turn his fortunes around enough during the 1990s to tour with Eric Clapton, Ringo Starr, and the band. His final public appearance was at a 2005 press junket in Los Angeles to re-release the concert for Bangladesh film. Afterward, he performed Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, My Sweet Lord, and Isn't It a Pity with Ringo Starr and George's son Danny. Early history. Preston was a child prodigy long before becoming famous as the fifth Beatle. He started playing piano at the age of 3 with both hands. He was performing in and helping direct the choir at Victory Baptist Church in Los Angeles by 9. At 16, Preston was invited by soul and funk singer Little Richard to accompany him on his tour in Hamburg, Germany in the early 1960s. The Beatles were Little Richard's opening act for his run at Hamburg's Star Club, helping launch the band's career. Richard didn't allow Billy to jam with the Fab Four members, but because he was close in age with the Beatles, he was able to forge a friendship with them backstage. Fate made him come to the Beatles again in 1969, and then the Fab Four were no longer 4, they were 5. For 2 weeks in January 1969, Preston served as a full-time member of the band. He played on solo albums for each former member, and in return, George produced some of Billy Preston's solo records. Preston went on to have significant hits with songs like Nothing from Nothing, Out of Space, and Will It Go Round in Circles. He also became a regular collaborator for the Stones. His solo records earned him critical acclaim, including a Grammy for his 1971 hit, Out of Space. Preston earned the distinction of receiving top billing alongside John, Paul, George, and Ringo on a Beatles record. He was the temporary glue that held the Beatles together to produce some of the best music pieces before they parted their ways. Death. The amazing songwriter and child prodigy died at 59 in Arizona in 2006. He got involved with the drugs in the 90s, which ultimately gave him kidney-related diseases. He stayed in coma for some time before his death. He collaborated with some of the biggest names in the world and released some of the finest music pieces. His legacy lives on via the Beatles' lore and his own music, including hits like That's the Way God Planned It, the Grammy-winning Out of Space, Will It Go Round in Circles, Space Race, Nothing from Nothing, and With You I'm Born Again. He had been battling kidney disease for some years, which was brought on by his drink and drug abuse. And towards the end of his life, he was addicted to crack cocaine. He fell into a coma on the 21st of November, 2005, and died on June 6, 2006 in Scottsdale. Billy Preston and his music will always be loved and remembered. This was all for today. What do you guys think about Billy Preston? What memory of his do you have from the Beatles' time? Tell us in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you guys around.